After shooting the video clips for installing the PowerMore 250 on my e-bike, I've since run into some other information that might help shed light on the process, some things that I didn't run into or that I got lucky with maybe because I wasn't aware of. So one thing I've found here, there's basically two different part numbers. There's this 3620 and 3625. According to this Reddit thread here, 3625 is the US version, while the 3620 is the EU version. Supposedly there may be some differences there. That was the model battery I got, and it seems to work with my US spec bike. So yeah, I'll put a link in the video description to this thread. It's got actually quite a bit of information and talks about various different bikes. Now this was about a 2-year-old thread, so I guess 2024 time frame, and that's when the PowerMore was introduced. And apparently there's also some issues with the older 2022 to 2024 smart system e-bikes and whether they're compatible or not. So this has some information on how you can check that. So yeah, like I said, there's quite a bit of information here. This fellow was talking about a year ago installing the PowerMore 250 on his Salsa tributary like I was, and he talks about having to go through multiple software updates. Perhaps they've changed that now. Like in my case, all I did was I plugged in the battery, turned on the bike, and it said, oh, there's a software update, and so I went ahead and did the update. And then the battery was there. There was no error code or anything. Apparently that software update is part of the battery installation process. I also noticed when I installed the Kiox 500 display, it wanted to do another software update as soon as I turned the bike on. Apparently software updates are part of installing new devices on your e-bike. So one other thing I ran into here, earlier in the video, I tried to explain what I was seeing as far as state of charge. This is a thread off of the EMTB forum, and this guy talks about how the Bosch e-bike system, BES, works here. Essentially, both the main battery and the PowerMore are 36-volt batteries, 10 series lithium-ion cells, and they've got an electronic battery management, or BMS, board inside, and that board talks to the motor via CAN bus. So if you look at the battery plug, it's got 4 pins. There's battery plus and battery minus, and then you've got CAN high and CAN low. And he points out the obvious here that Bosch was one of the developers of CAN bus for the car industry. That's what they use on their e-bikes. Here's the way the battery and the motor work. If there's only one battery when you power the bike on, then the CAN bus starts a handshaking transmission between the battery and the motor. Verify there's no errors present, the voltage is okay, the temperature is okay, all the cells are balanced. Then the motor tells the battery, turn on your output or discharge MOSFET. The BMS basically has an output or discharge MOSFET, and it also has a charge or input MOSFET. If there are two batteries, like the main battery and the PowerMore, and the motor configuration allows two batteries, so apparently there's a state in the motor controller called PowerMore Ready, so that's something you can actually have a shop check for you. They can actually plug in their diagnostic software and print out a report, and it'll say PowerMore ready, yes or no. So then here, the motor will communicate through the CAN bus to both the main battery and the auxiliary battery, and then will alternate between the two. It'll run the main battery for a while, so the motor will set the main battery on, the secondary battery off, and then use, he says, 5% of the charge out of the main battery, and then it'll quickly switch off the main battery, turn on the PowerMore battery, and run it down a couple of percent, and it'll keep switching between the two. Now I assume that is the case when both batteries are at similar states of charge. I think what I was seeing when I connected up the battery, I started out at 44% on the main battery. So then when I plugged in the PowerMore battery, I think I might have pushed the button and there was maybe like 1 bar of charge, which is something less than 20%. I didn't charge it. And then I plugged in the cable and plugged it into the bike. And while I was doing the software update, and then I shut the bike off and pulled the power plug out, I had dropped from 44 to 40%, which is about 25 watt hours of charge that I lost out of the main battery. And I think that went into the PowerMore. So my guess is that if the two batteries are, especially if one of them is at a really low state of charge, like I figured the PowerMore might have been around 16% state of charge, maybe at that point the motor says, oh, I better charge the PowerMore up a little bit. So on the percentage display, when you drop below 30%, it puts up a message on the display saying your battery is at 30%, and you have to click the button to say, okay, I understand. Like I say, I don't know if that was what was going on, but I seemed to see that there was some charge went from the main battery into the PowerMore battery. Now I have run it a few times where I've charged both the main battery and the PowerMore up to 100%, plugged it in, turned them on, and went on a ride, and at the end of the ride they were all at the same percentage roughly. The problem is you can't tell what the PowerMore percentage is other than 1 to 5 bars. That said, I've read a couple of posts where people have said they see 2 battery icons on their display when they have the PowerMore plugged in. I only see 1 battery percentage. I don't know if that's a motor specific thing, so I don't know, maybe that's a Generation 5 feature or what it is, but on my Generation 4 performance line motor, both on the Intuvia and on the Kiox display, I only see 1 percentage. If you have run the PowerMore and you see 2 different percentages, post up in the comment section below and let me know what kind of motor, what generation, and I'm not sure what happens if you run one all the way down and then one battery is dead and the other battery has charge. I guess it just runs off the battery with charge. But if they're at different states of charge, I don't know how you could tell what's going on without tapping into the CAN bus wires and decoding the communication that's going on there. That'd be kind of interesting, but yeah, that's a little out of my pay grade. And like I say, the way I normally use it, if I'm going on a ride thinking that I might need the range extender, I'm going to charge the main battery up to 100%, and I'm going to charge the PowerMore up to 100%. I plug them both in and take off riding. So yes, the battery percentage reading does reflect the capacity of the 2 batteries, because when I'm in eco mode with the main battery, I get just a little over 1% battery consumption per mile. So maybe 10% to do 9 miles, something like that. But when I have the PowerMore plugged in, it's kind of the other way around. I get maybe 11 or 12 miles on 10% of the battery. So yeah, the range estimates, the percentage seems to reflect the combined percentage on both batteries. So anyway, I'll leave links to these two in the video description if you want to check them out. There's a lot of interesting information in those threads, and you can read through those. I think the EMTB forum, you have to register to read past a certain point, but it seems like a pretty nice forum. It's got a lot of good technical information, so I figured I'd sign up anyway. So yeah, just check those threads out. They've got a lot of good troubleshooting information, and then this one has the good background on how the two batteries work together. So they don't connect in parallel at the same time. It runs one and then it runs the other and switches back and forth. So yeah, hopefully that helps clear that up. I haven't seen this documented anywhere, so I thought I'd throw this video out there just to clear that up a bit and kind of clear up what I was seeing. When I plugged in the battery and got it working, I didn't know any of this, so I was just kind of guessing what was going on. Yeah, if you have any other questions, check out those links. If you find any other good information on how these things work, how they decide what to do, especially if the two batteries have different states of charge. That would be kind of interesting to know. But yeah, throw that in the comment section below if you have anything to add. And as always, thanks for watching.